Control Act of 1968. Due, due the assassination of President John Kennedy, Attorney General Robert Kennedy, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the Gun Control Act is passed and imposes stricter licensing and regulation on the firearms industry, establishes new categories of firearms offenses, and prohibits the sale of firearms and ammunition to felons and certain other prohibited persons.
The law was one of the first political documents to mention that mentally unbalanced people ought not to be able to get guns. It also helped by making the licensing and record keeping requirements for gun dealers more rigorous. The president of NRA, which is America's longest standing civil rights organization, testified before Congress about the bill and expressed his point of view at the time by basically mentioning the project as reasonable. The leadership lasted until NRA's annual convention in 1977, when a group stood up with divergent opinions from the leaders, accusing them of not being political enough and defending gun owners, and took over. It was then clear that the law was also part of a political weapon, actually used in quite a large amount of times in history. In 1986, parts of the law were modified by the Firearms Owners Protection Act, which acted by allowing the interstate sale of rifles and shotguns as long as it was legal in the buyer's and seller's states, eliminating certain maintenance requirements from records to ammunition dealers and making it easier for individuals who sell weapons to do it without a license.
So, the Gun Act control happens in 1968, and the historical context of this law starts before. The context starts when the President John F. Kennedy was murdered with a gun in Dallas, Texas in 1963. But only after in 1968 this act happens, because the murder from Martin Luther King and Robert F. Kennedy, the brother from John Kennedy. So when Martin Luther King was assassinated with a gun, the black community stayed weaker and told that it wasn't protected. So the Black Panther Party did a protest to win more rights to protect themselves.
Before that, the law was less rigid in various aspects. It is estimated that there are between 265 and 393 million weapons in the hands of civilians. In a country with 328 million inhabitants, the military has an arsenal of 4 million weapons, and the security force have 1 million. While a portion of the population believes that more weapons equals more violence, organized protests calling for stricter gun control and considers the numbers of homicides and mass shootings, in which more than 4 people are killed or injured. Alarm, another part, defends the second amendment to Constitution signed in 1787, which guarantees that citizens are entitled to gun possession for safety. Even with such a division on the subject, 25 of the 50 American states, 14 of which are governed by Republicans, which generally support the population arms, recently passed laws that tighten access to guns. In Florida, which has a high rate of violence and is ruled by Republicans, it passed the most thorough background search before releasing persons and programs to reduce urban violence. However, another 10 laws that facilitate access were signed.